Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this one, as promised, you've got this massive lump of yew. It's a heavy one, very dense piece of wood. At first appearances it's all solid on this side. This piece is from a whole tree that I was given back in November 2020. I received an email from a local customer who had a beautiful old yew tree in their garden that unfortunately had over the years slowly been dying, and it had come to the point where it was causing problems and it was decided that they wanted to take the tree down. So they offered me the chance to save the wood and do something with it, which was an amazing opportunity. So obviously I was straight down there. My good friend Mark, who I mentioned in the last video about the eucalyptus, you get to see him now with me cutting the tree down. It was quite a tricky situation with a few buildings around, so we had to be careful how we took the tree apart, taking all the top out until we got to the real meat where this lump came out of. And here we can see a bit of footage from Mark and I pulling the trunk down. Made a hell of a thump, shook the ground. As you can see, the camera, which was on a granite wall about 10-15 feet away, got a good shake. And I'll get this wrap that I put on to slow the dry down when I first cut it, and we'll have a look at what the outside's showing. So, what have we got? Well, first of all, look at the colours already, just in the cut face there. Surface of it looks like marble. Now we can see there's definitely some voids in here that I need to consider, but at first glances I think this is going to be the bottom of the bowl. We might have an interesting crack running through this side of the bowl. Maybe retain a little bit of this live edge with what's almost burr. I mean, look at that. It's almost like burr pattern in there. Now this is going to be right at the capacity of my Graduate as it stands at the moment. Although there is something I can do about that, which maybe in a future video I'll come and address. Now then, don't want that going in, that crack. All mounted. That is some really dense yew. It's probably the densest I've ever worked with. This bit was definitely from quite low down in the stem of the tree, down where all that tarmac was getting pulled in, and I'm expecting to find some horrible bits in there which will probably lead to extra chisel sharpening. Let's go. It really is a heavy lump. Okay, let's get it on there. I hope there's enough clearance. Definitely not a lot of clearance there. It's going to be a quick trip back to the bandsaw and a slight trim. Straight away on the first cuts, this was really tough. It was almost feeling brittle under the chisel as it was chipping away at the wood, and with that grain going in so many directions, it didn't really want to take particularly clean, peely shavings because the wood just was all over the place. You can see I'm starting to stop and dig little bits out. In a minute we'll see some more significant excavations going on as I'm finding lots of bits of stone and quartz and mud and all sorts in there. A lot of these cuts take a long time. It's sped up footage which doesn't really show you, but here you can see how slowly the chisel's actually moving. This is in real speed at the moment. So a lot of these voids, I think, were where the tree had been cut in the past and then healed over, possibly quite low down, as it was a more bushy, younger tree, and it's sucked up bits of stone and mud around the bark edges as it's healing. I honestly lost count how many times I had to go back to the grinder to resharpen. I took 2 chisels with me for most of the rest of this bowl because sometimes it was one cut, find a new bit of stone or mud full of bits of quartz crystals and resharpen. These longer cuts going all the way to the outside were incredibly slow. Although I've sped up this footage, in reality some of the cuts took over a minute, some of them 2 minutes just to get from one end to the other, and holding a very steady hand, trying to avoid getting cramp. So the outside edge here, this particular void caused me a lot of trouble. Several stops to sharpen and excavate bits of mud out, which was always full of little tiny crystals of quartz, which you could immediately feel the chisel go blunt as soon as you hit that patch. And there was no real easy way around that other than to just keep ploughing through. Coming up to the final finishing cuts on the outside here, trying to get as clean a finish as possible so that there's less sanding, although with all the bumps that was easier said than done. Okay, halfway, and that was a challenge. That is definitely the hardest yew I've ever turned to date. It's really dense, especially around all these burrs and knots. The grain is going in all of the directions, every one of them, and yeah, there was nice lumpy bits of quartz in there, which was really good at blunting the chisels. Yeah, we got there in the end. Now to turn it around and get it mounted and start hollowing, which will probably be equally as hard work. I mean, that's still so heavy. And we just got to hope it all holds together with that big void. Ooh. Oh, that one's disappeared into the wood shavings. That's why you should hoover up as you go. I didn't find that screw, but I did later on. And in I go for the first cuts on the hollowing side. Again, this is going to be a lot of passes with plenty more surprises inside. Just feeling out on the first couple of passes, and then, as expected, didn't take very long. That's my chisel bouncing off a nice, perfectly smooth little pebble. Look at the size of him. I mean, look how far into the tree that is. I always feel a bit like a dentist extracting something when I pull bits like that out. It really did amaze me how much this tree had sucked up over the years of growth, bits from around it that were just grown around and encased within the timber. It was quite phenomenal, but that is what gives something like this a lot of those characterful colours and shapes that we're seeing start to get revealed now. Don't forget, it's free to like and subscribe, and please leave me a comment. I've really enjoyed reading all your different comments and thoughts on my previous videos, and yeah, please let me know what you think. Each time you see me stopping and digging out with the little scribe there, I've had to go and resharpen the chisel, so it really shows how often I was having to do this, especially through the hollowing. It almost felt like it was worse inside. Coming towards the final cuts on the inside here, and I was getting bounced around quite a bit by that void there, and the different knots in the wood being different densities just made it really hard to get a super smooth cut. So I'm working really carefully and just taking tiny little shavings to try and even that curve out. Quick sand and then a good tidy up in the workshop. Lots of dust hiding in those voids still because they carried on right through, and then here's that screw magically just appeared. Finally all sanded and ready for oil. That was incredibly hard work, and it took a lot longer than I thought. I thought it was going to be tough. It is going to be absolutely beautiful when that oil goes in and shows off all of those bits of burr and crazy scars. What a life that tree must have had. Anyway, lockskin hemp oil, in we go. Now it's going to need lots of extra oil once it comes off the lathe here to get down into all of these cracks. But for now, we'll just give it a quick coat, let those colours start and pop as it soaks in. Bring you round for the outside, but look at the colour of that. Well, where do I start? So many interesting little features in this whopper. Let's get it off the lathe and have a proper look. There we are. absolute beast. Of a piece of yew. What a battle that was, but one well worth fighting, and I'm really pleased with the finished result of that bowl. It shows all the scars that that tree clearly wore throughout its life, and yeah, there is so much going on in this bowl, it's almost impossible to know where to look. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I love yew as it is, but this is just crazy yew. Try and get some nice close-up shots so you can see some of the interesting burr patterns. This void here got bigger and bigger. I wasn't expecting it to become so big, and what we've got here is just a beautiful tiny little twig here that's a new bit of growth within there that's just held on. Shows how strong that wood is and how resilient the tree really was over the years at trying to survive and healing up over multiple wounds. All these different branches that would have been coming out of the tree, each one of them was like hitting a piece of steel on the way through. I hope you enjoyed that one. Please like, subscribe and leave us a comment, and stay tuned for my next video.